Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 4070 Super in Forza Horizon 5. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Up's GPU-Z, and resizable bar is also enabled there. And over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X3D with half of its cores disabled, so it's basically the same as a Ryzen 7 7800X3D. Great pairing for this GPU. Over on the memory tab, finally, we're using 32GB of DDR5 6000MHz RAM in dual channel, and let's get right into it, shall we? Let's start by going through the settings. I'm playing at 1080p, and I'm also going to test this one at 1440p, 4K, and 8K resolutions. 4x MSAA is being utilized, no DLSS because it's not needed really at 1080p resolution at least, and I am using the maximum settings here, and it's getting 170s, 160s. It's going to be great for like a 1080p 165Hz monitor, or higher of course, or lower, but I really don't recommend you to buy a 1080p monitor with a 4070 Super. This card performs very similarly to the RTX 3090 as well as the 3080 Ti, and it's just a waste at 1080p, honestly. It can do 1440p so well that you should just go with that resolution. It's 78% higher in terms of pixel count compared to 1080p, and you get a lot more detail at 1440p. And well, it shouldn't come as a surprise that it gets a high refresh rate experience at 1080p. If you're playing games at 1080p with this card, it's high refresh rate experience all the way in every single game. Probably. Anyway, so far so good. The least that I've seen it drop to was like 130 FPS, close to some vegetation right here, but we're gonna go to the big city in this game, which is much more intensive, of course, and then things should start dropping a bit further. Still, at 1080p, this is overkill, once again. Come on, okay, it's all good, yes. Alright, now we can play a little bit of Rocket League right here, my friends. Pro tip, okay? So you just break these trees and now you got a ball. If you can control your car. Yeah, there we go, look at this, Rocket League, oh yes. That's amazing. Okay, now, let's continue. Let's go to the city. Anyways, we're finally here in the city area, dropping down into the lower 130s, 120s sometimes, but guys, it's gonna be an amazing experience here in Forza. That's the second time that I crashed against that thing, that little ledge over there. Anyway, it's gonna be a high refresh rate experience all throughout, and even if it drops into like the 120s and you have a 144Hz monitor, you might feel like, come on mate, I want 144 FPS all of the time. It's not gonna be noticeable in this game, honestly, okay? And over here, it's the most it'll drop to, 109 FPS getting out of the tunnel, but it's only gonna happen when getting out of the tunnel, and it's not noticeable anyways either. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we got VRAM allocation as well as VRAM utilization right here, and the actual usage was always below 8GB. But in this particular title, if you play for like 30 minutes or more, it starts filling up a little bit more on the VRAM, and 8GB GPUs will likely start struggling a little bit at 1080p resolution. I've actually experienced a lot of that with AMD GPUs, 8GB GPUs in particular, because those usually consume like a couple of 100 megabytes above what the Nvidia GPUs consume. So anyway, moving on. 1440p resolution, 4x MSAA still, and over on the graphic settings, we're using the extreme settings, or maximum settings actually. This is not the preset, as I told you. I manually set everything to the maximum, and as you can see, at 1440p, things become a little bit slower, but it's still a heck of an experience right here. God damn it. Yeah, the better graphics and better visibility won't really make you that much better of a driver, unfortunately, so expect a lot of crashing here today because I am playing the game. If it was you, I'm sure you'd be way better than me, but hey, it is what it is. Oh, actually, we have a lot of vegetation right here, dropping down into the lower 100s. So on a higher refresh rate 1440p monitor, you likely not max it out at these maximum settings. If you play on like ultra settings, you can expect like 30, 40, 50 more FPS in some areas than what we're seeing here on the extreme max settings. But again, just enjoy this game. It's super playable, it's super great even at 60 frames per second, so getting like 90 plus FPS 100% of the time is nothing short of an amazing experience in this title, and I would totally recommend it. Finally, let's go to the tunnel right here, and getting out of it, it drops to like 91 FPS, so it's 90 plus 100% of the time for sure, if it drops to 91 in the worst case scenario. Now, I'm still going to play for a little bit longer here at 1440p resolution. Oh boy, come on, mate. Because I want to see a little bit of a different scenario, although the FPS don't really change by all that much. It's nice to see it at its adequate resolution for a little bit longer, right? So let's continue going here. Oh boy, alright, should we do like a race or something? Yeah, I think so. Alright, here we go, guys, a little bit of a race going on in a different scenario with greenery and stuff, very beautiful, and it's getting around the same FPS, actually higher than it was in the city. So a lot of people tell me, well, go play in the middle of the woods like this in a race, and when you see a lot of cars on screen, it's gonna drop FPS like crazy. Well, not really. It's kind of the same as the city, if not better than the city, because in the city it dropped to like 91 FPS. Alright, I'm doing great here. Somehow I'm first place, I don't even know how, maybe because I have a legendary car right now. But I'm usually super bad in these races, especially with mouse and keyboard. I usually play this game with a controller. It's right here, but it doesn't have batteries on it, so yeah. But hey, we're doing this, guys. We are doing this. 110 frames per second there. It's going to be an amazing experience at maxed out settings. And again, if you require more FPS for some reason, if you are like a competitive Forza player, which I'm not sure a lot of people are competitive in this game, because it's more like a casual game to me at least, and to my friends that play it. But yeah, if you want more FPS, rest assured that it will get you those insane like 150 plus FPS if you play at like ultra settings instead of maximum settings. Okay, all right, here we go. 140 FPS right there, finish line. Let's go. First place, my friends, 123 FPS average with 106 1% lows. Alright guys, we're now playing at 4K resolution with the same 4x MSAA. In this game, this doesn't work the same as like in Red Dead Redemption 2. It doesn't drop your FPS by that much, and it does make a difference to the image quality, so I recommend it. And on the graphics settings, everything is still maxed out. Let's go. Start counting our FPS. That was a bad start over there because I went into the menu, but okay, we're giving them a little bit of a chance this time around. This is a way bigger race, by the way, so we're gonna spend quite a bit of time here at 4K in this one. Oh boy. Alright, all good, all good. And hey, the 4070 Super is still achieving 60 plus 100% of the time. It's not as smooth of an experience as it would be on the lower resolutions, so if you value the high refresh rate, 1440p is the way to go, you know, as I usually say, and this card is actually aimed at 1440p gaming. Come on, get out of the way. Oh boy, it's my time to not shine. Yep, that was not shining at all. Okay. But hey, if you value visuals, 4K is yet another extra bump in that department compared to 1440p, right? It is going to be a sharper experience, sharper image, way more detailed as well, especially if you go through rivers and stuff like that. You can see the little water droplets. Damn it, on top of the car, and it looks really pretty actually, and this is a joy to play, by the way, on something like the TV that I'm using as a monitor right now. This is a 42-inch LG C2 OLED TV, and Forza Horizon 5 just looks absolutely breathtaking at 4K max settings on it. Actually, this was one of the first games that I've tried in this TV when I first bought it, and it was a beautiful experience. Like, it brought a tear to my eye almost. And my friends came over to see it as well. They were like in awe as well. Like, oh, this is amazing. But yeah, this is not an LG OLED TV review. This is a performance review of some sort of the 4070 Super. And in that... Wait, I thought it was going to be a much bigger race than this. Well, okay. In that regard, performance-wise, it is doing a really fine job right here. Oh, wheel spin. Oh, this is great. 250,000. That's amazing on a wheel spin. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna race around the big city this time around. Lots of cars. Start counting our FPS. This is it, guys. 70s, pretty much the same thing as we saw previously. It's a really good experience. Like, it's so sharp and detailed and beautiful. I would play like this instead of the high refresh rate experience in Forza Horizon 5. Just in this game, if it was a first-person shooter, yeah, I'd take like 1440p or even 1080p over this for the higher FPS, but this game should be enjoyed at max settings and high resolutions, guys. It is that pretty, and the 4070 Super definitely has what it takes to play it at 4K resolution, even though it is a 1440p GPU. VRAM-wise, by the way, even with the highest textures possible right here and highest settings, it's only utilizing around 9 gigabytes of it and allocating around 9.5 or so. So yeah, we're completely fine with the 12 gigabytes of VRAM on this GPU. Gosh, I hate these turns, man. No, no, get over here, you bastards. This is not the best car to play this with, actually, but we're still first place. All right, let's go back in the city, I think. Yep, lots of houses again. Hopefully we're gonna see it from above. Yeah, there we go. This is it. This is what I wanted to see. 70s. Actually, maybe it's better if we just see all of the cars in front of us for the FPS, right? So it's not really affecting our FPS by much. It's dropping like 5 frames per second compared to no cars on screen. So, yep, really good, guys. Again, it doesn't drop, but I need to check it out in the tunnel area. So I'm gonna exit this event, yep. And we're here, as you can see, getting 80s. And getting out of it, it shouldn't really drop too much, 75. That's pretty good. However, during the day, it actually drops a little bit further than during the night, but there is no time passing feature here, so I can't really test it right now, unfortunately. Anyway, this is a great experience at 4K resolution, no need to utilize DLSS and stuff like that, but I'm kind of curious to see it with frame generation at 4K. Can we get like 100 plus frames per second? That would be great, right? Wait, what the hell? It actually kept our FPS at 60 by default with frame generation. Make sure you disable that. You don't want the FPS capped when you're using this technology. So FG is now on, as you can see, with DLSS, not with like FSR3. This game doesn't even support that. And MSAA turned itself off. So I'm going to enable DLAA on top of it because it sharpens the image. It looks a little bit better than native. And here we go. DLAA plus frame generation is getting us 100-ish frames per second. And the FPS are very similar in these areas, by the way, comparing nighttime and daytime. It's just in the tunnel where it starts dropping a little bit more during daytime if you get out of the tunnel. And only when you get out of the tunnel, okay? Looking at the city from above, getting 100 frames per second. So it didn't quite double our FPS, but it gave us a good like 30 frames more or so. So it's definitely going to be a smoother experience or feel smoother on a high refresh rate monitor than just native 70 plus frames per second would. Still, guys, let me know what you'd do. I'm not sure if I would choose DLAA plus frame generation. It looks really, really good. Kind of the same as native res. Maybe a little bit softer because MSAA is sharper than DLAA plus FG. But, I mean, there's nothing to complain about in terms of visuals either. This looks great. It performs really, really well. And feel free to choose whatever you want. At 1440p, however, and 1080p, I would stick to MSAA because then you can start notice the frame generation softness. It's only a slightly softer look, but still comparing to MSAA. Now, 8K is a completely different beast. This is basically 4 times the 4K resolution in terms of pixel count. It's not a small difference, right? It's huge. And right now, with maximum settings, the 4070 Super should start struggling quite a bit. Okay, low video memory warning, first time that we've seen that, and it already swapped some things that should have been on VRAM into the RAM. You can see that because the RAM utilization went up considerably to 15-ish gigabytes. And it is quite a stuttery and terrible experience right now. It just doesn't feel good whatsoever with 20-something frames per second. It's kind of expected again because it's 8K, right? I mean, a 4090 would do 8K just fine. I actually tested it in this particular game at 8K resolution. It did well. A 4080, yeah, sure, it has enough VRAM as well, and it could play the game. But a 4070 Super is a bit too slow for 8K. And interestingly, Nvidia actually targeted the 3090 at 8K gaming back when it released, talking about 8K with that GPU. Yeah, the performance might have been there actually if you played it with like high settings, for example, so that's what I'm gonna do. But in terms of VRAM, I'm not sure if this will keep up with the 3090. That has 24 gigabytes, this only has 12. So right now we're playing at native 8K resolution with 69 FPS on average right there, and right around 69 very often in the counter. Actually, this is amazing. This is kind of expected as well because the GTX 1080 Ti also got around 30 frames per second using these settings. That's an older GPU, of course. So I was expecting a great experience coming from a 4070 Super here in this title at these settings. But still, seeing 60 plus is quite good, given that this is native res. Once again, if you enable some DLSS on performance, for example, it still looks insanely good, and you can probably achieve like 100 plus frames per second, which is kind of insane if you think about it. Ooh, you know what? I totally forgot to use the BMW M3. We should have used that in this race over here. By the way, the BMW that I'm talking about is the M3 from Most Wanted. Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005. That's, you know what? That's kind of my dream car. I don't dream very big, but I'd love to have that car, man. It's just so many memories playing that game, you know? So I'm gonna stop it right there and play with a little bit of DLSS. So I'm gonna enable it and set it to performance right here, but I'm not gonna utilize frame generation just yet, okay? So performance DLSS with 8K resolution. It locked our FPS to 60 again for some reason. It always seems to do that. It's really weird. And here we have it. It looks basically the same. It's actually a little bit less aliased because it's a little bit softer probably. But it didn't improve our FPS as much as I thought it would. It's getting 70, so about like 10 FPS more. Oh my god, that's terrible. That's the worst turn I've ever made. But yeah, 70-ish FPS is not all that impressive compared to native 8K's 60 plus FPS basically, or 58 plus FPS all of the time. That's the finish line. Come on! So close, man. Alright, so now we're going to the woods in this beautiful car right here. Oh yes, and apparently it is more intensive in the woods at the higher resolutions, guys. Come on, just... Why doesn't it allow me to go to the menu previously, before the game starts? That's a bit annoying, guys, because now I basically lost. Alright, let's go. So we're getting 70 FPS right there. I've seen it already dropping to like the low 60s in the cutscene, but maybe it was just in the cutscene. It's now dropping into the lower 70s and higher 60s. God damn it. Alright, you gotta concentrate sometimes in what you're doing when driving. Actually, you gotta concentrate every single time in what you're doing and the road and stuff like that when driving. And I'm not doing that because I'm looking at the FPS, so that's why I'm sucking a little bit here. Anyway, we're getting 69 FPS on average, which is quite decent, but yeah, this is definitely a little bit more intensive than back in the city, at least on high settings and 8K resolution with performance DLSS, which isn't really native 8K, of course, but I bet if I disable now the performance DLSS, we will see it drop from 60 FPS very often, right? What the hell? It's almost the same thing. We lost like 5 FPS. But it does dip here and there into the 50s. Still very impressive for what it is, you know? Damn. Okay, you know what? I'm mostly surprised that DLSS isn't doing much. Let's enable frame generation with performance DLSS on top and unlock our FPS, please. Thank you very much. And see... Whoa, boy! Okay, it ran out of VRAM. It ran out of VRAM, even with performance DLSS, guys, on top of frame generation. And it does look a little bit soft right now, not gonna lie. Quite a bit softer than like native 4K, and probably softer than 4K with DLSS quality as well. Huh. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like this graphics, and now the game is a little bit more stuttery and more inconsistent, guys. Although we're seeing quite a big difference in terms of FPS compared to frame generation disabled. And in other titles, when you run out of VRAM with the frame generation at 8K resolution, even with performance DLSS, it usually drops our FPS like crazy or cuts your FPS in half compared to no frame generation enabled. Thankfully, that's not what's happening here in Forza Horizon 5. It is playable, but I think I would just skip FG in this case, at this super high resolution at least. So that's been it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was informative and entertaining to watch at least. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.